Hello my dears, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon, and today I have another book talk video to share with you guys. And today we are talking about All's Well by Mona Awad. Now, a few weeks ago here on the channel, or maybe a month ago at this point, I did a book talk video on Bunny by Mona Awad. And this book was wild. I loved it so much. It was different than anything I had ever read. It kept me engaged the whole time, and it was just a wild ride. Even though it was dark and disturbing, it was also laugh out loud funny at some parts, and I had a ton of fun reading it. So it was a no-brainer after reading that I go out and pick up Mona's currently most recent release, All's Well. So now this one's, it's going to be a little difficult to talk about. To give all the plot points, and you'll see why now in a little bit. So for now, we're just going to start with the basic synopsis. Then before we do move into any of the spoilers, I'll give you a heads up. So if you do not want to hear them, you can get on out of here. So we'll start with the plot. All's Well is about a woman named Miranda. She is a divorced woman who lives in New England, and she's a university professor. She teaches, I believe, English as well as theater. But at this school, the theater program has kind of fallen by the wayside. It's no longer a major that you can take, but it is a minor. And part of that involves plays that Miranda is the director of. Now, the play she decides that her and the students are going to put off this year is All's Well That Ends Well by Shakespeare. Now the kids aren't super thrilled with this. They had really wanted to do Macbeth. But Miranda's like, you know what? Absolutely not. I've decided that we're doing All's Well That Ends Well, and that's the end of it. So you can just sort of deal with that. Now, the thing you need to know about Miranda is she suffers with intense, incredible chronic pain. She's suffered with it for a while now. It was sort of started with an injury that she suffered when she herself was an actress performing on the stage. She took a fall, and that kind of kick-started what has now snowballed into this debilitating pain that just consumes her every day. A lot of the time we find her laying on the floor in her office trying to put off going down to rehearsal or to teach or to mark papers as long as possible. And the descriptions of this pain go on for pages and pages and pages. And then you're given a little break, and then it's more and more pages of this pain. And I feel like that's deliberate. It's to sort of bring us into this pain. And you're reading it, you maybe think like, okay, well, that's enough. But like, it's her life. It's her 24 hours a day. And so she's taking us into that. We see that because her pain is invisible, there have been tests and tests run, and all the doctors are like, there's nothing wrong with you. We don't know why you're suffering this badly. There's nothing to explain it. And that, of course, is very upsetting, very invalidating. She feels invisible. She feels unseen. And now she has to deal with these kids who don't want to do All's Well That Ends Well. They want to do Macbeth. It gets to the point where kids are complaining to the dean. Their parents are complaining. It's a whole ordeal. And then from there, things just take off. She ends up meeting three men in a bar, three businessmen in business suits in a bar one evening when she is there sort of self-medicating her pain. She takes a ton of pills all the time to try to, like prescribed pills, to try to numb this pain, to try to get through her days. And the side effects of those pills are kind of reflected in the writing. There's a lot of sort of stream of consciousness type of writing. There's a lot of imagined conversations. Like, you'll find yourself in the middle of Miranda having a conversation with someone, or Miranda imagining someone at home having a conversation with somebody they know, and you're getting this whole conversation, but it's not real, it's imagined. It's what Miranda's imagining a conversation would go like, the way that she's imagining people are talking about her. So that can get a little slippery sometimes when you're reading. You're like, wait, is that real? No, it's not. It's very rarely real. It's just the way Miranda is internally imagining people are saying. So, like I said, she meets these 3 businessmen in their business suits, and from there something sort of supernatural or otherworldly begins to happen. They offer her relief, but in exchange for what is the big question. So that is basically the plot synopsis. It's a hard genre to pin down. While Bunny definitely leaned a little more towards horror, this one I guess would probably be more surrealist, a little absurdist maybe. And Bunny definitely had elements of that as well. I just feel like Mona Awad is such an intriguing, interesting writer that is so unlike anything else out there. I feel like even if you read one of her books and you don't love it, I feel like you can appreciate what she was trying to do and where she was trying to go. So if you don't want any spoilers, even though, like I said at the beginning, I don't even know how I'm going to spoil this because you'll see it's tricky. Anyway, if you don't want to hear it, get out of here. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, so all's well. She makes a deal with these businessmen in their business suits at this bar, and almost instantly the next day she's starting to feel better. She can walk easier. She catches herself running at one point. She catches herself, like, a paper falls on the floor and she bends down to pick it up. And, like, she hasn't been able to do that in years. You need to understand the extent of this physical pain she's been in. You know, she's still achy, still a little stiff, but all of a sudden she can do things she hasn't been able to do in forever. And she gets this newfound confidence. Like, she goes into the theater where they're about to do rehearsal, and all the kids are holding scripts from Macbeth because they're complaining to the dean has worked, or so they think. But she immediately is like, nope, no. And she speaks up. She has a voice for the first time in what feels like forever for her. And she says, no, we are not doing Macbeth. At that point, she reaches out to a girl named Brianna, who has been cast as in the lead of All's Well as Helen, and wants to be the lead of Macbeth, Lady Macbeth. And she touches her on the wrist, and all of a sudden, Brianna drops the papers to the ground. And her face goes pale, and everything goes wonky. Eventually she leaves, and then she's not there the next day, or the next day, or the next day. And eventually Miranda learns that Brianna has suddenly and quite strangely fallen very, very ill. Her entire body hurts. Sounds a lot like what Miranda had been going through, but now with each passing day isn't going through it anymore. So we start to think, okay, she's made a deal with these men who are what? Witches, warlocks, demons, who knows? And somehow there's something in her touch that is transferring the pain. And when she transfers that pain, she feels even better. It's like with each transfer, her load gets lighter. And it's not everybody she touches. There seems to be some sort of need of intent behind it, because she has a relationship with a man named Hugo. He doesn't seem affected. But Brianna gets infected. One of her physical therapists gets infected. When she goes and tells him, I'm feeling a lot better, and instead of wanting to help her exercise and get stronger, he's like, well, no, this is just a nothing. We need to do the treatments. And the treatments hurt her, and she knows they do. And she tries to tell him, and he won't listen. And then as she's leaving, she touches him, and his wrist again, and he slumps in a chair, and she feels better and she can leave. So the play is continuing to be rehearsed. Brianna's gone. Miranda has moved Ellie, a young girl in her class, to the lead role of Helen. And Ellie's a little bit of a quiet, shy girl, but Miranda sees something special in her. And right before Miranda started feeling better, like literally the day before, the day of, Ellie had given her this little satchel of herbs and salts and essential oils. And she said, here's a bath I made for you. When you get home, dump this bag into the bath and take a bath in it. It's healing. And Miranda's like, well, thank you. But in her mind, she's like, listen, I think we can all see I'm beyond a herbal bath to help me. So is that a coincidence that after that bath, she feels better? Is that what's healing her? Not these imaginary, perhaps 3 men in their 3 business suits. One thing I will tell you about this book is if you don't like ambiguity and not knowing exactly what's happening, you probably won't like this. But I love that. I love that in a book. I don't need to be told everything. Just dump a pile. Just dump a pile of story on my plate and I will eat it up. You don't need to tell me everything. That was a bit of a weird analogy, but anyway. So, is it Ellie's herbal baths? Is it these 3 businessmen? You're never fully told. But towards the end, you get the feeling that maybe it's been Ellie all along. Because as the story goes on, things just get muddier and muddier and muddier. You don't know what's real. You don't know what's not real. So many times you're in a scene and then halfway through that scene you're in a different scene, so then you're like, well, is she imagining the second part of the scene? And then you're like, well, she has to be, because there's no cut. It's like the same paragraph and now we're in a different scene. And I liked that a lot. And she's at the point now where her body can't feel any pain. Like, she can get cuts, gashes. Like, she doesn't feel any pain anymore. Not just her extreme pain, any pain. So upon another meeting, well, first what happens is the dean comes in and he's like, listen, we just got a huge donation from 3 businessmen, probably in 3 business suits, and they want to donate to our program. Miranda, you have nothing but cash now. You can put off the best program you have. We can turn the theater program into a major again. Which of course he's very excited about. Miranda's very excited about. Everyone else thinks is incredibly weird. And then just from there, I don't even know how to explain the ending, how to explain any of it, because it would all sound like gibberish. But if you've read it, you know what I mean. From there, it just spirals. Opening night comes. There's so much craziness. Brianna shows up. She wants a part in the play. She knows she won't be the lead at this point. She wants another role. She is sick. She is sick. She looks to Miranda's eyes, how Miranda felt before this change happened. Eventually, Ellie comes up to her and she's like, listen, I took this too far. And Miranda's like, you took what too far? And she's like, all of this. I did all of this. And Miranda's like, there's no way you did all of this. Ellie's like, I did, but you know what? I'm going to fix it on opening night. And then she kind of does. She kind of does. But also, with these 3 businessmen, they had told Miranda on their, I think, 2nd or 3rd meeting in this dingy bar, drinking weird liquor, that all they wanted in payment for taking away her pain was a good show. Opening night comes. It is not a good show. For all intents and purposes, Miranda's in another room having some sort of psychotic spiral. She stumbles out onto the main stage, falls off it, just like she did back, years ago when her original injury happened. She falls off it. The 3 businessmen are there. They're like, we're doctors. Eventually they're like, she's fine. And then after Ellie's like, I fixed it, it's all good. Brianna looks better. Everyone else who had been hurt because of Miranda's touch, they're all doing better. Miranda's like, okay, but in her heart, she knows that she now has to pay up to these 3 men. She failed them. They did not like the place. So she goes back to the bar, ready to pay her price, expecting they're gonna kill her, give her back her pain, whatever. And then the book kind of ends with her just sitting there. The storm that was brewing above has now settled down. It's not coming in anymore. And like the rain stops, the thunder stops, and then she's kind of like, okay. And then you're kind of left with the feeling that everything that was wrong had righted itself. Like, as in maybe Ellie was right all along and she was controlling it. Nothing's ever cleared up. It's up to you to take what you want from it. There were a ton of things I loved about this. I loved that it was putting on a Shakespeare play. I loved how a lot of the characters in the book had many traits of characters from different Shakespeare plays. I love that. I love Shakespeare. I love seeing him sprinkled in other books. I loved the way this was inspired by him. This is another 5-star Mona Awad read for me. I'm happy to report. Is it going to be for everyone? I mean, no, but no book is. But I feel like if you liked Bunny, and I loved Bunny. If you liked Bunny or loved Bunny, give All's Well a try. It's very, very, very different. It's different. But if you like that kind of weird, ambiguous, what's going on here ending, and you don't mind being left kind of hanging, definitely check it out. And if you haven't read Bunny, give Bunny a read as well. Anyway, you guys, that's gonna do it for me for tonight. I feel like this has been really rambly. Maybe didn't give you enough info, but I honestly don't know how to give you any more without sounding insane. Currently in my pending file on NetGalley, I've got Mona Awad's new summer release, and I'm hoping I get approved for that so I can read it early and do a spoiler-free book talk on it. So cross your fingers for me. And I will see you again real soon. In the next video, we're going to be talking about Ashley Audrain. She's the author of the wildly popular book The Push, which I read on this channel and loved. She's got a new book coming out in June, and I've got to talk to you about it. Bye, guys.